ai mana akitia mai Aotearoa. God of nations at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God defend our free land. God Pacific triples down from the shafts of strife and war. Make her praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place. God defend our free land from dissension, envy, hate, and corruption. God our state, make our country good and great. God defend New Zealand. Peace not war shall be our boast. The blood should flow, assail our coast. Make us bear the mighty host. God defend our free land. Lord of battles, in thy might, put our enemies to flight. Let our hope be just and right. God defend New Zealand. Let our love for thee increase. May thy blessings never cease. Give us plenty, give us peace. God defend our free land from dishonor and from shame. God our country's spotless name, crown her with immortal fame. God defend New Zealand. May our mountains ever be free of ramparts on the sea. Make us faithful unto thee. God defend our free land. Guide her in the nation's land, preaching love and truth to man, working out thy glory.
Wow, kia ora, kia ora, kia ora e te whānau. That was our national anthem sung by Cindy Ruakere. She could be a whanaunga of mine, actually, no Taranaki. But anyway, that's a beautiful rendition. How are we? How are we? It's been a little while, and I just wanted to come on. I've been in all sorts has been happening actually. More tangihana. Oh my gosh. We've had unveilings, tangihana. Obviously the koro neihana last week. Toby Curtis tangi as well. So we're losing the echelons, the top echelons of Māoridom, and it just absolutely saddens me. It saddens me that our people are still not connecting the dots. So wherever I go, I share Dad's story. And it's interesting when you start sharing the story, like what Dad suffered from. He suffered from myocarditis. Then you explain what that is. That's an inflamed heart. Most of his heart was inflamed. He never had heart or lung problems prior to 2021. And guess what he died of? Heart and lung problems. Then he got his booster and he got pleural effusion is what it's called. The doctor said it was like a hole in the lungs, and so the lungs were filling up with fluid. Dad always described it as he felt like he was drowning from the inside. And then he had pericarditis around the heart. And as you know, it's still raw for me. It's still absolutely raw for me. And I've stated I'm after political utu. I'm after justice for my father and other vaccine injured. And also there's the issues around mandates. And I hear that some whānau are able to go and start working again, even if it's just in call centres and stuff like that, but they're starting to get their jobs back. But the government's still got a grip on us, right? Still got a grip on us. Anyway, I just, as you can see my billboard on the back, and I thought, coming out of Facebook jail as well. And what I've noticed at the same time, all the political influences that do not push the government's narrative, voila, our Facebook's pages get interfered with. So that's a red flag in itself. So our Bill of Rights has basically gone out the window for now. And as we know, there's the march that's happening in Wellington as we speak. So I did want to go in and just people are going live. So I'm just going to double check to see if they're still live. And I was going to share their lives, but we'll see if that's going to come up. Yep, I'll see if I can share their lives. So we'll see what's going on, whānau. I'm going to share that. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about my kaupapa as well, the whole reason why I've put my hand up for local government. But I'll put that on at the tail end. So just be patient with me and I'll share what's happening with Mana Live. So okay, here we go. What's going on here, whānau?
Okay, do not. Oh.
So this is happening is live in Wellington, and I just want to mihi out to Mana Live for doing they're live, and there's a huge amount of people, and they're heading towards Parliament. So I just wanted to show you how many people have turned up for the protest today. A lot of whānau are there. Can you? Oh yes, I'm just checking to make sure you can see. Yeah, I've got to prepare for a court hearing, and it's to do with our wharepuni. So that's the reason why I'm not down in Wellington. I've got so much on my plate with just heaps happening whānau. They're in Wairua actually, but you know, the wharepuni is my father's legacy, and so that's really important for me to uphold my papa's mana and what he stood for. So, but doesn't mean to say that I'm not there in spirit. I've been on a few campaigns and protests over the last few times that we've been in Wellington. But look, great turnout. Anyway, whānau, so that's that. I'll just stop sharing that for now. We'll just check in. We'll listen to what they have to say. Okay, I'm just going to stop this now, whānau. I just wanted to check in, and we might come back just before I sign out. We might come back and check on what they're doing. But I've had a lot on my plate, a lot of preparing, campaigning, all sorts of stuff. So like I say, you can see one of my billboards behind me, and it's just a busy time, whānau. Kia ora to Eileen, Crystal, kia ora matua mau, ngāwai, Tangi, Anna, kia ora han to Regina, and aroha to your sister Jo as well, and kui, kia ora anō, Tangi, Ross, awesome, TK. Thank you for joining into this live. Anyway, whānau, lots of things happening in Parliament, and I guess I really wanted to also talk about Dr. Gaurav Sharma. So today he's been expelled from the Labour Party. So what that means is we're in for another by-election, whānau. Holy hecka. Another by-election in Hamilton West. So that's going to be interesting. And it is a cost factor every time someone campaigns, it's a cost factor. It's not cheap to put your name up. It's not cheap to run. And you got to have the capacity because you're working, you've got whānau, you've got other commitments. For me, I'm an advocate, so I'm busy doing advocacy work, and Dad's moimoia, the protection of our wharepuni, is coming up to crunch time. And so I'm a bit nervous, really. Or not nervous is not the word. Waiting with anticipation, I think, because it's Dad's whānau. A lot of Dad's cousins are on the board. My cousins are on the board. We are whānau. And so we'll be meeting in the Māori Land Court, and we will be discussing the issue and the protection around the whare puni. So that's going to bring out a lot more emotions for me because of Dad's passing, and because Dad's moimoia was to protect his whare puni. But I've been following Dr. Garaf Sharma, and I tell you what, he's one of the nicest. He's one of the nicest, politician that I've met. I remember a couple of campaigns ago, he said to me, Donna, he said, I really admire you, and if I wasn't a Labour man, I'd vote for you. That's what he said to me. That's how nice the guy is. He's a fellow with integrity, eh? And like he said in some of his news interviews, and I'm a bit reluctant to share the news interviews because they use any reason to shut me down, whether it's for 24 hours, 48 hours, 7 days, or whatever. They use any excuse. As we are aware, Chantal Baker, 97,000 followers, and she was shut down just like that. Sue Gray, the co-leader with me for the Outdoors and Freedoms Party, her page has been restricted as well, and mine gets restricted. So free speech is out the window, especially if you're pushing against the narrative. What they didn't realize with Chantal Baker is that there was a backlash. So she set up other platforms, right? And there's an absolute backlash, and they try to shut her down, and instead it was all over the news, right? And instead they actually probably made her more prominent than not by shutting her down, by putting her on the news. And she's probably got more support than she's ever had. So their strategy backfired on them. So kia tūpato, if you want to shut us down, people are waking up to the type of tyrannical behavior, and how big tech and governments work hand in hand to push certain narratives. The media are all part of it. And we go on to the platform that Sean Plunkett, and I know Sean personally, and actually I'm going to ring him up to tell him to interview me. But anyway, I know Sean personally, and he's a good journalist. He's an investigative journalist. You don't have to agree with him, but he's a journalist with integrity. Why? He might bring up topics that you don't agree with, but he gives you the right to reply. And that's what I've got a journalist, people don't realize, but I do have a journalism background. And what makes a good journalist, what gives a journalist integrity is, one, if you're going to go after a witch hunt, at least give that person the right to reply. Otherwise, you just become a propaganda tool. And we all know now, and the mainstream, so-called mainstream media, because they're no longer mainstream, because people are switching off to them. So the only way they're going to stay in business is by this government giving them lots of money. Now, when this government's gone, what are they going to do? They're going to rely on us to support them. By that time, the platform and the likes of Chantal, they would have created their own media platforms, and boom, we'll be off. We won't be listening. They will have no integrity. And like Sean Plunkett said, the media has to have journalists have to have journalistic integrity, and that is at least give the person you are attacking the right of reply. And the platform gave Chantel that, and she's I think she's got it all as a journalist. She's got the look, she's got the mannerism, she's speaks with a lot of reason, and I think that they've done her a favor rather than an injustice by taking down her channel. 97,000 people is no small fry. And then she's got Project People, which is another channel, Facebook page of hers. And literally overnight, she had 8,000. And then literally overnight, I think it was up to 14,000 or nearly 15,000. So she's going to gain the support very, very quickly. But talking about Wellington, I'm just going to, you're all saying, oh, you're welcome. Thanking me for sharing. They're saying, lovely to see you again. I know I've been, like I say, we've all been restricted on our Facebook page, and it does make you a little bit nervous about what you want to say, because obviously they don't want the truth out. Because when I speak from my truth. Section 14 of the Bill of Rights give me the right to speak my truth. Whether you agree with it or not really doesn't matter. It's just like anybody else, giving anybody else the right to speak their own truth. And so, with me running for mayor and the Māori Ward in Hamilton, there's this fella, and he was putting up all the people, all the candidates. I think there's 44 candidates all up for running for mayor, running for the West Ward, and now the two Māori seats. And my name came up, and he called me a conspiracy theorist, and he said, "Oh, Donna Pokere-Phillips supports Brian Tamaki." And she's got a huge following, she's very influential, and she's a conspiracy theorist. Well, if you're going to call me that, be specific. Give me the right to rebut you if you're going to call me names, because that's what it is. It's name calling, right? If you're going to call me a conspiracy theorist because I talk about my father's vaccine injury and you don't like it, imagine how we as a whānau and I as a daughter feel about it. Put your feet in my shoes. I would rather not have to talk about my father's vaccine injuries. I would rather have my father here than have to talk about his vaccine injury death. And so there's no conspiracy in that at all. And I was very clear with the doctors, and they did not once question me, because I knew exactly what Dad had. I knew exactly how Dad got that sickness, and it wasn't his diabetes. None of that come from his diabetes, and that's the mawīwi, or the sickness that he's had since he was about 50. And he didn't die of diabetes. He died of heart failure and lung failure. He died because his lungs filled up with fluid and his heart filled up with fluid because of vaccine injury. So when someone calls me a conspiracy theorist and said, don't vote for her, well, you better confront me and give me the right to reply and the right to rebut you and ask you which part of my conversation is a conspiracy. Because what's the bet? And I know what I've spoken about. What's the bet? You cannot defend your comments, and I can. So just putting that out there, whānau. But talking about Dr. Garav, and I'm going to play it so you can hear it. I'm a bit reluctant to share it with you purely because I'm afraid that they're going to restrict me again. So listen carefully, and I'll play you Dr. Garav's interview. You don't really need to see him.
The fact that I have said there needs to be an independent investigation, first of all, against the person who's bullied me, but also independent investigation they're against me if anybody has raised any serious concerns about bullying from my side. Um, when I tried to present the facts of the employment issues, and I just want to clarify right from the beginning that I was the one who raised concerns regarding my staff, not the other way around. So the whips got involved because I raised concerns regarding my staff, and that's when the bullying from the whips started. When I tried to actually raise the...
So, Dr. Garaf, and I don't know, the volume's pretty low. So he's raised issues of bullying. And he raised the issues of bullying with the whip, and then he was bullied by the whip as well. So that's the comments he's made thus far. Just seeing if you can hear. Okay.
Examples when I tried to talk about my concerns, the split text, I was told I can't talk about it, and the only thing that really wanted to talk about was the expulsion and the suspension.
So Dr. Garaf has, and like I say, I know him personally. We've been to him as a doctor. He's a man of integrity. He'll come back to a community that will support him. He'll probably go back to being a doctor again. But we absolutely, it's a community that we won't shun him. If anything, he's probably got more support than he's ever had. So his point is that the government, the Prime Minister, and the caucus refused to listen to the issue of bullying. Now, when you've got a government that has bullied the country, right, that has coerced the country into mandates, they're not going to listen to one of the MPs who is saying that they're being bullied. Now, I'm going to mention Alan Holster. Me and Alan worked together many years ago, and he now has Culture Safe. Now, his Culture Safe, he was a workplace bullying advocate, and me and him did quite a bit of mahi in the workplace bullying space. And now his company has been shut down, and what he's saying is that a lot of people that have been bullied are usually really good, honorable people that have integrity, and the reason why they're bullied is because they see something happening that is either corrupt. Well, there's no other word to put it. It's usually corruption, and they usually expose corruption within that organization. They usually expose other bullying within that organization. What I've found, the experience that I've found working in that space, is that the bully stays and the person with integrity goes and usually struggles to find work after that, because they're either classed as whistleblowers or they're classed as being problematic when it comes to employment. Here's what we have to do as a country. Here's what we have to do as a society, as a community, is we need to uphold people that are willing to stand up against bullies, because it's as systemic within our society. They deal with bullying in the employment under the employment court jurisdiction, right? And over in other countries, in Australia and around the world, they deal with bullying in a criminal space, not in a civil space. In a criminal space, there's a higher threshold to prove. But what that does is it deals with the issue of bullying, and it tells people if you're going to be bullied, then there's a potential you could go to jail as a criminal, right? I've dealt with people that have been suicidal. I've dealt with people that have become so broken because of workplace bullying that it's actually a really difficult space to work in, right? And more so for men, than it is. It's tough on women, but the reason why it's hard for men is because they are the provider, right? And if they challenge an employer, they potentially are putting their whole family's livelihood at risk for doing the right thing. And so if you look at what's happened in the last 2.5 years, there are those that refuse to get an experiment gene therapy put into our bodies, and we've had to fight against propaganda. We've had to fight against literally brainwashing, because everywhere we turn, it was about getting the treatment, right? So it didn't matter whether you turned on your TV, your radio, your news, opened your newspaper. It was everywhere. Advertising was absolutely everywhere. That's a form of brainwashing. And now all we see is those that have, there's that whole debate around, did that person die with COVID or of COVID? And so we force, and because people like myself were saying, well, come on, let's be clear about whether they died with or of. There is a difference. Right. And so we're challenging the government, people like myself. And I do notice that Facebook usually restricts me when I mention Dr. Guy Hatchett. When I mention Dr. Guy Hatchett, who's a scientist, and he gives out a lot of data. Next minute, my Facebook page is either restricted or it's been shut down for a little while. So these are the challenges, and these are the techno giants that we're going up against. But we're not silly people, and they treat us like we're children, and they treat us like oh gosh, sorry, I thought I had visitors. Anyway, they treat us like we are children, okay? And we're not. We're highly intelligent human beings, and we can decide for ourselves. And we are no longer going to be fooled, are we? So, Dr. Garaf, I'm going to carry on playing him, and I'll just stop him every now and then, just so we can talk about what he has to say.
Focus had contacted me a week ago and talked about it. But as I said, I think the simplest two questions that I keep reading are, why isn't there an independent investigation against me?
So he's asking, why is there no independent investigation? And that's a legitimate question to ask. They've expelled him without a legitimate investigation. He's saying, we've got to this point of expulsion, but where's all the processes in between? I know with Culture Safe, there've been a couple of conferences that I attended as well with Culture Safe, where we tried to, I even did up a report for some ministries in regards to workplace bullying. Putting the legislation there, showing where the legislation is weak, as well as showing that we actually need to follow suit with Victoria over in Australia and look at workplace bullying as a criminal offence rather than a civil offence. Why? Because it causes harm, it causes mental health issues, and it causes suicide. Mainly men commit suicide. If they are bullied, they stand up to the bully, then they lose the ability to provide for their whānau, and it just becomes too much of them. It's pretty sad. It's like I say, it's a pretty hard space to work in. But I'll carry on with Dr. Sharma's kōrero.
To see if I have actually bullied staff, as people have claimed, but why isn't there an independent investigation against Karen McNulty?
So what they've done, and this is not the normal case, and I've sat in many a mediation where the perpetrator then turns into the victim, and then the perpetrator says that actually the person, that person bullied them, and that person was unreasonable, and that person was, tamir. So they go from a perpetrator to the victim, and this is what Dr. Sharma is saying that there's now accusations of him bullying. Well, here's the thing. Here's the red flag, and for someone like me that works in that space, the red flag is who raised the bullying issues first. If you're a bully, you are not going to raise issues of bullying, are you? If you are a bully, right? You will not raise an issue of bullying. So, you may, a narcissist may raise the issue of bullying as a smokescreen. But I know this doctor personally, and he is a man of integrity. He is a man with mana, and I have the utmost respect for him. And if he's been bullied and he's been expelled, and you allow someone like a real bully, Mallard, for example, Trevor Mallard, and you allow Trevor Mallard, who's an actual bully, and we saw it in the occupation. We saw it when I saw it from my own eyes. He's an actual bully, and you don't expel him, and you allow him to be there. And the Prime Minister could be accused of bullying the country because of mandates. And you don't talk about those issues, and yet we as a country are saying these are serious issues that we want to have a conversation with you, Prime Minister, with you, Mallard, with you, whoever else we're talking to. Then you should listen, because it'll cost you at the voting polls. And Dr. Sharma is probably going to do a lot of harm for Labor, because they can't come back from this. They did not, and as he stated, they did not do an investigation before they expelled him. Wouldn't you have gone, as any leader would have gone, whoa, hold it, okay, there's been these accusations, let's bring in the QC, let's bring in the Crown Law, because you got all these very, very clever lawyers, right? And let's investigate it. But they didn't. They expelled him, and they are going to pay the price. Labor will pay the price for that. So I'm just going to carry on to see what else he talks about.
Because he should also genuinely get a chance to clear his name. And from my end, things are very black and white. All the evidence is there.
He's got evidence.
All that is needed is, to do a black and white independent investigation, which will clear out everybody's name. Look, people said all sorts of things, and they have the right to say, how they felt. But as I said, many of those colleagues have privately messaged me in the last few days. Obviously, over the last 1.5 years, they have been bullied.
So he's saying that many colleagues have messaged him, and he's been in there for 1.5 years. He's a newbie, and they've said that they've been bullied in Parliament. So we know that there's sexual harassment that's been going on in Parliament. And now he's exposed the underbelly of Parliament, and that's all the bullying. And MPs are coming out and saying they're being bullied. So this is a wake-up call for political parties. I know for a fact that you've got to have thick skin to get involved in politics. I know that for a fact. But if we want good people in Parliament, if we want people with integrity, then we have to be able to protect those people. So maybe now it's time to look at our workplace bullying legislation and say that actually the employment court is not the appropriate court to deal with workplace bullying. That maybe we should now consider it as a criminal offence. Because what I've seen time and time again is that the bully gets away with it. And what they do, what organisations do, is they have to pay a lot of money to compensate. And usually it's to protect them from any disclosure of corruption. So they will pay out money to protect any disclosure of corruption. And so if we were to shift the law that you're not protected, and that courts can pull down what you call the veil into these protective agreements, then maybe too we'll see a shift in the behavior of bullies. Because the only reason why people come out is, one, that they have been bullied, two, that they are shown. So psychologists have worked in this space. There's a number of reports that show the impact of workplace bullying, and I won't go into that too much, but to say that there's a psychological game going on, right? Psychological game. And if we can't protect those with integrity, and and our laws continue to protect those that are actually should have a criminal charge against them, then we need to go back and look at those laws. And so maybe Dr. Sharma's disclosure that he's been bullied is actually in the long term going to be good for our country, because it'll force the politicians to look at the issue around bullying, and the public will demand that people are protected, that whistleblowers are protected, those that are whistleblowing on corruption are protected, and that the corrupt cannot keep their jobs, and those with integrity lose it. So anyway, whānau, that's what's happening in Wellington today as well. I just want to go back to see if the protests, to see if they are in Parliament. Yeah, Parliament. No. So anyway, now what else did I want to talk to you about? Okay, my mayoral bid. So better, because I need to get into campaign mode. So for me, local government is just as important as central government. If anything, I see local government as more important, and I think we need to clip the wings of our central government politicians and bring the mana back to our local government politicians, because at the end of the day, well, they both impact on us, right? Local government as well as central government impact on our daily, what we do on a daily basis. Now, for me, running, and this is my pamphlet. See, it says Māori Ward and Mayor. And I'll just read what it says on it, because I've got to do my own little spiel, since we're in campaign mode. And at the back, you can see my billboard. So my spiel at the back of my pamphlet or my brochure says, every single person in Hamilton wants to live in a warm, affordable home. If you invest in a new build to help alleviate the housing crisis, council should invest in you. I'll say that again, because I think it's a pretty good catchphrase. Every single person in Hamilton wants to live in a warm, affordable home. If you invest in a new build to help alleviate the housing crisis, council should invest in you. Hamilton City Council has seen a rate rise of 17.8% over the last couple of years. 17.8%, whānau. Wow. The average rate increase for 2022-2023 remains at 4.9%. With the increase in the price of living and families falling below the poverty line, balancing the books has never been more important for our council. I would use council rates remission policy that allows council to remit rates on residential property to reward you with a rate rebate. Vote for me, and I will work hard to ensure it happens. Okay, we have to learn to live within our means, and so should council. I will reduce your rates and put more money back into your pocket. Council wants to spend $6 billion over the next 10 years. They are living beyond their means, and I want them to tighten their belt. Excessive spending has to be reined in. vote Donna Pokere-Phillips. So that's what I'm dropping off, and I'm setting up a little table and chair, and just going to put these out and talk to people about it, because everybody wants their rates reduced. And now that all of us are struck with the price of living, with fuel increases. I mean, we were part of the transport industry a few years ago, and me and my husband said, thank goodness we're out of that business, because we cannot imagine the stress, with fuel increases, right? And the stress on our poor owner operators, or those owning their own businesses in the transport industry. So we're quite pleased that we no longer work in that space. I also want to read to you my profile. So this profile is for the Māori wards, and I'm just going to read it out to you, and you can read it on, I think it's My City Elections as well, if you live in Hamilton. And I'm doing a few interviews with reporters, and answered some questions currently with reporters, because they're all interested in this Māori girl running for mayor. And the reason why I put my hand up for mayor, it's not that I anticipate winning, but hey, you never know what's going to happen, right? But what I want to do is put some really important issues on the table that will not get debated until there's an election time, right? And elections are really good to debate issues that are important to you. So putting my hat in the ring for mayor allows me to put some important issues on the table. And so here's my little profile statement. I will fight to keep local assets in local hands. I will push for a social housing program. I am a fearless leader. This government is hell-bent on bringing forward the three waters reform of our waste, storm and drinking water, while ignoring the firestorm of opposition. Hamilton needs a fearless leader to take on this government who wants to steal our assets. I am that leader. We're having a housing crisis where over 1,000 families do not have a place to call home. Current leadership have stated our civic building is not fit for purpose and want to sell it. I will utilize this asset to rehouse some of these families. I will fight to keep local assets in local hands. I will push for a social housing program. I am passionate about my community. If you want a fearless leader, vote Donna Pokere-Phillips for mayor, co-leader of the Outdoors and Freedom Party. So that's my profile statement for mayor. This is my profile statement for running in the Māori ward. I will bring equity back to decision making. I will push for social housing program. I am a fearless leader. Mana whenua role in our community needs to be reflected in all levels of decision making. I would advocate to establish a joint decision making process which puts our community in the driver's seat. I will ensure ratepayers' money is not captured, creating communities of haves and have-nots. We have a housing crisis with over 1,000 families, where over 1,000 families do not have a place to call home. Current leadership have stated our civic building is not fit for purpose and want to sell it off. I will use this asset to rehouse these families. I will establish a joint decision-making process. I will push for social housing program. I am passionate about my community. If you want a fearless leader, vote Donna Pokere-Phillips for Māori Ward, co-leader, Outdoors and Freedom Party. Now, these are really important issues to me. I've been living in this community for over 25 years. It's a long time, and I have seen assets shifted from the poorer communities into the wealthier communities. And I'll use our park here, our Crawshaw Park, as an example. We had swings, We had roundabouts, we had slides, we had seesaws, we had walking gyms for all our babies. And we live in a brown community, and every home has one or two, if not more, children, right? And they took down our park, and I actually thought that they were going to refurbish and bring back a new park, because that's all we're seeing in the wealthier area of Kirikiriroa, and they have spectacular parks. So anyway, I went to a meeting, a local meeting with our council members, and I asked them, why did you pull down our park? I said, our babies have got nowhere to go and they have to travel, and a lot of these families don't have cars. And so it means that our babies have to walk further, which makes it dangerous for them. And they said to me, oh, someone has been lighting fires at your park, and lighting fires on these playgrounds. And I said, you're lying. I said, because we don't only look after, and I've been living here for over 20 years, we don't only just keep an eye on the park, we go out there, we pick rubbish up, we make sure that our park is maintained, we keep an eye so that kids don't tag on our park or our fences. We used to have a lot of tagging when we first moved here, and now we barely have any tagging. And that's because they know that we kaitiaki the park, right? And my daughter's created, she does exercises there for families as well. So they go out there and, we utilize the park. And I said, you're lying, because that park is ours, and that park has never, ever been set alight. Now, I caught council members, employees, lying about our park, but they did that trying to justify taking down our swings and that, right? And you may not think this is an important issue, but for families here, the park is a lifeline, right? Our children go there, and they go there to create memories and moments and to feel safe. And I says, you shifted the resources, you took away our park, you didn't replace it, and you shifted the resources that should have gone into this park somewhere else. And I said, and I'm not happy about that. So, that's just, I guess, one example of what I'm trying to highlight, and what I'm trying to put on the table for discussion. Because when you're part of the community and you're only talking to employees of the council, you're not actually talking to the decision makers until it's an election time. And what I noticed with our current mayor is that she's going around our communities looking at how to better improve our communities. So even if you don't win it, but you put these issues on the table, it forces people to actually consider them. And that's my point. So I think I'm just going to leave it there, whānau, and thank you for staying on for as long as you have, Scylla, Maria, Ngawai, Stacey. Okay, what's this? I'm just bringing this up. Okay, Stacey says, Kia ora whā, Donna. Brian announced the Outdoors and Freedom Party has signed up under the Umbrella Party, along with Vision and New Conservatives. Okay, he's beat us to the gun. Well, even though Brian has stated that, we as well still, there's still a lot of work to do in the background. Okay, there's a lot of whakawhiti kōrero that needs to happen. And a memorandum of understanding is acting in good faith. We're going to act in good faith. But thank you for commenting on that, Stacey. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your comments, wishing me well for the future. Thank you very much. Well, the upcoming campaign. It's local body politics is not quite as intense, I think, as central government politics, because you're more of an independent. But I'm running under the umbrella of the Outdoors and Freedom Party as the co-leader. So thank you all. Kia pai tō rā, and we'll catch up again soon. Ka kite anō. Kia ora rā.